Now from Atlanta News First Plus, this is Sports Tonight.
Welcome into your Sports Tonight, a Wednesday special Hump Day edition. The lovely Ellie Parker joining me tonight. We have quite the show. We're going to talk. There's a lot of Georgia aspects we can talk about, whether it is the Orange Bowl, their 2024 schedule being released. We're also going to talk some Falcons Bucks, their second little meeting. It will be in Atlanta. The NBA in-season tournament coming to an end rather soon. And then Tech Volleyball, I'll talk a little bit about them because they're doing some outstanding things. But
is Sean here? I don't know where she is. I don't know where she is.
She was earlier, and she would be thrilled to know that we are running. She's our volleyball guru. She always makes sure I am on top of it.
We're actually talking about volleyball for once.
Correct, but we will start with all the dog news. Let's start with the schedule, Ellie. For me, I think that's probably the most exciting.
Certainly for me.
This schedule is very interesting. So they open up the season on August 31st, I believe, against Clemson at the Benz. That's always a fun, big game. It will be packed in there, good atmosphere. But there's an interesting 4-game stretch that ends up happening where they go to Alabama to face Tuscaloosa. Then they have Auburn and Mississippi State at home.
And then
they go to Austin to play
I'm excited
Texas.
for this one.
I am too. First of all, I'm a Texas girl. I know a lot of people from Georgia may not have any roots or connection to Texas, but my family lived in Austin. It's an incredible city. The stadium there's awesome. People rally for the Longhorns like they rally for the Dawgs. And I think with this being the first official meeting in the SEC, the new looking 16-team SEC, it's going to be quite a showdown.
I mean, the unfortunate part for me is no Georgia-Oklahoma matchup, but I am super excited for this Georgia-Texas matchup. Obviously, as Bailey said, it's the first meeting between the two teams as in-conference opponents. No matter what you think of that situation, Georgia-Texas is always going to be a good game. These are two fan bases that love their football teams, and, Darrell Carrillo Stadium is just kind of one of the, I guess, cathedrals of American
It's a
college
fun
football.
atmosphere. Like, if you haven't been in Austin, you haven't been there. I've been there a few times when I spent time in Lubbock, Texas, covering Texas Tech. And Texas Tech, Texas is a pretty big little rivalry there in the Big 12. So it's always been fun ones there. But that was one that I saw that I was stoked about seeing. But the schedule, they have 2 bye weeks. I think they have one, correct me if I'm wrong, Ellie, but
September
it's like
21st
the
and
third
October
week.
26th.
Yeah, the third week. But they face a lot of similar opponents that they faced this season, whether it's Tennessee, Ole Miss, Auburn, Florida, and Jacksonville as usual. So it will be interesting to see how it all looks, especially with what pieces. I think there was a new high for players entering the transfer portal.
Brock Vandegrift just committed to Kentucky.
In little conference rivalry there. Rivalry is a strong word, but you get what I'm saying. Going somewhere that is not unknown for this team. We have not talked in depth about the transfer portal. I'm sure you guys talked about it yesterday with all the news that's coming out with the NCAA. How do you feel about it?
A lot of the guys that are transferring probably wouldn't have gotten a ton of playtime to begin with, which, I mean, from their perspective, go get your playtime. If you're here to both get a degree and get playtime, and you want to balance the two, and you're not getting that at Georgia, what else can you do when you kind of have to look elsewhere?
Yeah, no, and I mean, we don't know for certain. One can only assume. But with Brock Vandegrift going to Kentucky, you got to mean that's Carson Beck is coming back. Why else would you leave if you weren't going to play?
Is Dylan Raiola next year or the year after that?
I believe the year after. But the biggest name that I actually thought was very interesting that was entering the transfer portal was Dylan Gabriel of Oklahoma.
Yes.
I found that very fascinating.
Saw this morning, I think.
But I'm also wondering how much for him, at least, is he going? I'm playing in the Big 12. Well, they're going to the SEC. Yeah. But I wonder how much money I can really get if I enter the transfer portal and try going somewhere else.
True.
And how many of these athletes is that their thought process? And I think that's just it's disgusting ripple of what is college football.
more than it probably should be. Mm-hmm. Although guys should get paid. These guys, I'm going to come out and state it. I personally am on the side of these guys getting paid. Mm-hmm. These guys create value for these institutions that they see no penny of, really. And, a guy going, who can give me the most money? Who can, especially since football is a dangerous sport. Mm-hmm. You do not know how long you will be playing it. We just had former Georgia quarterback, his name escapes me at the moment.
I know who you're talking about, who retired. Anyway,
Continuing on. Like, he's medically retiring before he even, he probably wasn't going to sniff the NFL, but before he could have even done so. So you gotta gather ye rosebuds while ye may, in terms of just getting your money, because most of these guys are probably not going to get as much money from whatever they go on to do next as they would with NIL.
Yep.
So I'm team get these guys paid, but yes, it is a disgusting ripple.
It will be interesting. We will see how it all pans out in the long run and how much really changes this upcoming football season. A lot's changing, whether it is NCAA rules, the playoff format, whatever it may be. Quick mention here, and then we'll move on. The Orange Bowl did cancel the press conference with Mike Norvell and Kirby Smart.
What else can you do?
There was a lot of speculation that was because of Florida State not getting in, and would Florida State end up boycotting? It seemed like it was just a mix mosh of scheduling is what is being reported now, so nothing too harmful. Let's get things pushing to Falcons Bucks now, Ellie. Before we kind of dive in and discuss this matchup, the team did talk earlier in Flowery Branch, so let's tune in to what head coach Arthur Smith and everyone else had to say about meeting the Bucks for a second time.
Guys that we'll hold today that still have a chance to play. Drew, will be one of them. This guy, David, and then Caleb and Nate. AJ will be out there as he's going through protocol. We'll have to see what that is, but he'll be out there. But, for the most part, we're in pretty good shape. Jeff will be out there.
And just, with the, going down the stretch here, tight race in the NFC South, what are some of the markers, 3 years in of what the NFC South is, the state of the NFC South, and teams are trying to, put it back together.
Well, I think, 3 years have been a lot different, right? There's been a lot of change, as there naturally is in the NFL. And, a couple of years ago, when Sean Payton was still in New Orleans, and obviously Tom Brady was in Tampa, different regime in Carolina. There's just been a lot of change. Every year's been different. The one constant when you look at Tampa, is they've won a lot recently in this division. They've got some really good veteran players. I said the other day with Mike Evans, he's been a dominant player in this league and been very consistent for a long time. And then, it's a good scheme. They haven't changed much defensively, and we got a work cut out for us. But we're excited to be in this kind of game, and we're anticipating another high energy crowd on Sunday. And what is this? What should feel like a playoff game.
David, it seems like he's kind of been dealing with stuff for weeks now. Is this an accumulation thing for him?
I would imagine any NFL player that's taken these number of snaps is dealing with something right now.
I just wonder whether it was something that has been building versus.
I don't know if it's been building. I mean, just in the game, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the trenches, and something that came up during the game. But I mean, he's that other thing. I mean, just I understand the question. It just a lot goes on. I mean, you've covered this a long time. I mean, everybody's dealing with something, and some things are more significant. And I know this: if he has the ability to play, he'll play. And sometimes there's guys you kind of have to hold back and practice, and David's one of those guys.
Is Collins closer? Is he going to give it another go this week?
Yeah, he'll be out there today, and like I said, I thought he was close last week.
You've been around a while too. I mean, does sometimes it feel like every season ends up being that battle of attrition more than anything else when you get to this time of year and being in these races?
I think that's why depth's so important. Nobody, wants to see good players out. But yeah, I mean, I think that's such a long journey. Guys that get a chance to come back, or guys that are maybe out a week or two. But that's part of it, and that's why you got to build depth. That's why I think it's so important when you're a camper in season, using the practice squad right, making those small transactions that can pay off for you as the season goes on.
You haven't won 3 games in a row since you've been here. So what is it going to take for you and your team to kind of break over that hump and finally string it together?
I've never looked at it as those are like those stats you can chop up any which way. It's like a Sunday daylight saving time, not daylight saving time. Second quarter, 6 minutes to go. What's your record on 3rd and 3? I mean, and I get the question, but all that matters is this week. We got to win this game. That's how I look at it.
What's the next step for Dez that you want to see him progress?
With all our players, we got to keep improving. It's what the best teams do. It's what good players do. You just continue to improve week in and week out. We talked about consistency. Mike asked me the other day. I mean, that's the name of the game. Every week there's going to be different obstacles. Some of it's the challenge of the scheme, or maybe some personnel matchups, or maybe there's weather or other things that go into it that you may have to adjust. But we're all looking for consistency and improving. I mean, that's what good teams do. You improve as the year goes on.
Evans is such a game changer at receiver. How does it change with AJ's situation? And I mean, it was already going to be tough anyway. How do you guys approach trying to shut him down?
Well, he's a great player. You got to continue to find ways to, from one game plan to the next. I mean, that's going to be a challenge anytime you're playing a great player. We don't necessarily look at it like that. I mean, they're great matchups every week around the NFL. You're talking about the best of the best. Mike's certainly a guy that's been consistently a great player in this league. So we've got our plan. I'm sure they got one too. And it doesn't matter who's out there. We got to go out there and find a way to go win.
What about percentage of players that concentrated? You said that Mike Evans was a guy that you would watch a lot. Do you see similarities there? Like when you're kind of showing him stuff, or maybe when TJ's showing him stuff, you guys point to that and say, hey, look at how he plays and what he does, and there's things maybe you can take there?
I think a lot of good players, there's certain things you can take from anybody when you study. They're relatively the same size, I guess. They're different players. I remember we had a coach on our staff in Tennessee that loved Mike Evans. I remember watching a lot of them coming out of Texas A&M. Different, in my opinion. Their tape was different in college, but Drake's been pretty consistent since he's been in the NFL. But I think you should look at all those great players that had success, whether it's Jerry Rice or it's Mike Evans or a long line of guys that done it. You're just looking for something what is it that's made him successful for that long a period of time. And so anytime you can do that and you're looking for the right things, I think it helps.
Hey, how's the preparation been going here for a big game on Sunday against Tampa Bay?
Yeah, it's good. Obviously, came in, watched the film from last game. Obviously, the weather and everything, the situations that played into it. Obviously, there's a lot of things that we can clean up, a lot of things that we can be better at, and, come out that, game. Not saying we weren't happy, obviously, because we got a win, but obviously there's a lot of things we can clean up and be better at. And then, coming back to our home, back to Mercedes-Benz against a division team. It's going to be a huge game for us. We went down there and came out there with a win. We felt like we left a lot of meat on the bone, when we were down there. We just want to put in that same work, same energy to be able to go out here on Sunday and be able to put on a good performance.
What are some of the characteristics of their defense? They'll be a third time playing them. And Coach said they probably held back some stuff from the last game. But what do you see when you look at Tampa's defense? Those guys are out.
Yeah, like you said, you got some guys banged up. It's week 14, so who's not banged up around the league? But they do a great job of just kind of Rolodexing the coverages, confusing the quarterback. just making, those safeties play all over the place. And then they also do a great job in the back end of just being sticky with the guys and staying on them, making the quarterback hold it for just a tick longer. But, as long as we're able to do what we do, be able to play fast, play clean, we should be able to go out there and do our thing.
Helped you that so many of the skill position guys you're throwing to are kind of in the same spot as you 1, 2, 3 years in the league. Is there a benefit to that?
I mean, sure. I guess I couldn't tell you the other way because I haven't been in the league a long way. So, yeah. But
I just wasn't sure whether that was something you felt because obviously it's different in college when you've got freshman. But there's still that level of kind of.
Yeah, you just look at it as there's going to be mistakes. There's going to be learning periods of not only from yourself but everyone, and you just like we say all the time, you just try to never make those same mistakes twice. If I'll talk in the receiver room because there's multiple guys out there at a time, but you got one guy that makes a mistake. You can't be the other guy that goes makes that same mistake that he did. So it's not only just on yourself, but learning from the mistakes of other guys as well.
Is it fair to say, because you mentioned about how at week 14 and everyone's playing that, but do you feel maybe a little bit fresher than others just because you had some time to kind of look, and then how is that helping you now, I guess, in this one streak?
Yeah, I guess you could say I got a little 3-week bye week or whatever it may have been. I feel good, ready to go. Body feels great. It's just going to be able to go out there and go play.
How important is it, because we all talk about streaks and win streaks, and how important is it for you guys just confidence-wise to be able to get 3 wins and just to remain dominant in the division?
Yeah, like I talked about after the game, last week's goal was obviously to get that win, and that would improve us to, the 2-win streak or whatever you want to call it that we haven't done since the first 2 weeks. So now we're in a situation that we've never been in before. Well, I guess we've been in once, but obviously didn't take advantage of the opportunity, and that's to go stack 3. It's not necessarily about the streak, but about getting the next one. It just so happens to be that it's a division opponent. Obviously a game that means a lot. Anytime you're playing meaningful games in December, you're doing something right. So being able to go out here against a division opponent in December where a game means a lot, it's huge for us.
How does it feel different, I guess, even compared to last year? Obviously, you only played 4 games, but when you're playing for meaningful football, right? You're playing to win a division. I guess, how does it feel different, more playoff atmosphere every single time, more pressure, or not at all?
No, like I said, I think, sometimes, a lot of people make the moment too big. But if we look at it as just the next game, look at it as just going 1-0, no matter who your opponent is or whatever, because at the end of the day, you got to be worried about what they do. But, at the end of the day, you got to worry about, what you do and what you do well. Because if you're doing what you do well, it's tough for a defense to stop you.
McCole Pruitt, you were able to get him some balls last year and been able to find him Sunday. What does he bring to the offense?
Excuse me. He's just a different energy. And, when I say that, sometimes it's not the rah-rah type of energy. But, when he gets a ball in his hands, he goes and makes a play. Coach always jokes around about, finding 85, figuring out where he is on the field because, it just seems to be that when he gets it in, good things happen.
As you said, if you're doing what you're doing well, it shouldn't matter what the defense does. I wonder if you're speaking specifically of this team and this unit, or generally as an offensive player, do you think if we hit all of our marks, it shouldn't matter what they do? Our thing should beat their thing.
Yeah, you got talent level players, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, at the end of the day, you obviously, like I said, you got to worry about the defense for a little bit for different certain looks and this and that. But at the end of the day, everyone's out there, all 11 on offense are focused on their job. And every single person on that field is doing their job and their job only. Then the execution of the offense should be at a better point. Now, like we said, there's going to be wrinkles. They're going to throw a pressure at you. Something's not going to go right. One guy's going to maybe take a slow step or whatever it may have been, and it can ruin the whole play. And then that's when the defense has an advantage. So it really takes all 11 guys being in sync, in tune with each other to be able to go out there and execute at a high level.
To learn to carry the ball on your outside arm, is that something like saying as soon as you saw it, I have to do it and I'll switch, or did it take drilling, or how did that?
No, that's something that we growing up. That's one of the basic fundamentals. You run into the left, you put it in your left arm. You run to the right, you put it on your outside arm. And then obviously you get in there in game, and you go back to last year, or earlier this year, Tampa, down in the red zone where I fumbled right going across because I had it in my right arm. There I was going to throw and pulled it down, and you just get into the game, and obviously try to make it second nature, but, it just popped in my right arm. But, yeah, I mean, from obviously a quarterback's perspective, you're not thinking about that every day because, some guys are pocket passers and never get to scramble. Other guys, scramble all the time. But, as a running back and a receiver, those are key emphasis and points that are hit every single day.
So, Ellie, I'll say this. Falcons have won 2 straight, and they're looking to win their 3rd straight.
My God, I didn't know they knew how to do that.
The Jets game was brutal to watch.
Oh.
Can I just be honest with you? I was off Sunday, but I was watching the game, and at one point, I switched to watching Christmas movies because I just couldn't do it to myself.
Okay, but which Christmas movies did you watch?
The Grinch.
Which Grinch?
So,
the OG, the 2003 version?
The OG, but can I be honest? The animated Grinch movie is fantastic.
Yes.
It's very underrated as a Christmas movie. Okay, getting off topic, we're going to keep it pushing here. Let's talk about the NBA in-season tournament. It was something everyone was really skeptical about, but now that we're down to the wire with it, people seem to like it.
Yeah, was definitely one of those people who was skeptical, especially once they released those court designs. Mm-hmm. Which, if there's one thing they need to do for next year, it's ditch those. Mm-hmm. Those alone were making the games unwatchable for me. But yeah, it has definitely worked out, I think.
So the Bucks in the semifinals, I found this really interesting. Giannis Antetokounmpo was asked post-game about going to Vegas, playing the Pacers. It was funny because Tyrese Halliburton was someone who was like, who cares, kind of at one point.
Yeah, and then and all of a sudden in one of his press conferences, it's like, we're going to do all it takes to win.
To win, correct. Of course, singing a different tune. Someone probably got to him. But Giannis was asked about being in Vegas and if he's excited, and he was like, well, it's awesome. We're going to keep playing. We're going to go play, and then we're going to go hopefully play for a championship. And they were like, you do realize, like, you win $100,000 if you win. And he just goes, the rich get richer.
Yeah.
And I was like, I like that.
Unless you're like Pete Alonso in the home run derby back in the day when he was getting paid peanuts, and that was like 1/10 of his salary.
Yep.
So yeah, there are definitely guys who are going to who are going to care. Mm-hmm. And because that's going to be like 10% of their salary for the year or something like that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, for the most part, it's going to be the rich get richer. What's $100,000 to me?
Yeah. Other NBA news: Hawks sit at 8-9 on the season. They host the Nets tonight at State Farm Arena. That is actually a game that I believe was added because once you didn't make the in-season tournament, you get 2 games, and this is one of the 2 games that they got for not making it into that tournament. Okay, let us continue on to one of Sean's favorite topics. We will talk a little volleyball. I can't see her. The pillar's in the way. I think she's over there. But number 5, Georgia Tech will take on the number 1 overall seed Nebraska in a regional appearance. This one is coming your way on Thursday at 2. This is a massive matchup for Georgia Tech. It's going to be hard.
This is huge.
It's their 4th regional appearance. They've just been chugging right along. We were able to catch up with the team and coach to hear what they had to say about facing the top dog in Nebraska.
Just excited about continuing to play at this time of the year. I felt like we have found new levels as we have gone through the tournament and keep getting better and better. So it's also fun to see your team continuing to grow at the end of the season. We're excited about the opportunity. Proud to be representing Georgia Tech amongst the best in the country, and looking forward to the next challenge.
What are your expectations for the type of environment you're going to see on Thursday?
Yeah, no, I mean, Nebraska is awesome. I mean, they've done so much for the game of volleyball. Obviously have a great program and has really helped grow the game. Their fans are very loyal, but also very respectful. So I think that we're going to have a great volleyball environment. I think that it's a very unique opportunity for our players and for our program to be competing at this level, at this round with them over there. So we understand the challenge, but we're also looking forward to just enjoying the moment and being in the moment and really kind of making the most out of the opportunity that we have to compete over there.
Okay, so the win over the 4-seed Florida was their first true road win in an NCAA tournament in program history. So that's huge for them. On top of it, it was head coach Michelle Colliers, who you just heard from, 7th NCAA tournament win, which is the most of any Georgia Tech head coach. So they're doing really well for themselves. That game, once again, on ESPN2 on Thursday at 2 p.m. We'll have those highlights on Atlanta News First, so we'll keep you posted if they can pull up the big upset. We always wrap up with the fun topic of what is on your mind. Ellie, I'll start with you, but I think
They're going to make Zach Wilson do his job.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah. I'll take an interesting spin on this with Zach Wilson. Aaron Rodgers joined Pat McAfee, as he usually does, on Tuesday to discuss life, football, and more. And he came to Zach Wilson's defense, kind of saying, when there are reports and you have things to report on with sources, a lot of it is sourced with an angle and to get at someone's character. And Aaron Rodgers basically said that report was from a source that's trying to put an angle and bring down Zach Wilson's character. And Aaron Rodgers said he really likes Zach Wilson. He's enjoyed, and I'll be honest, Rodgers doesn't just come out and back people like that.
No, this is not usually what he does.
So it was very interesting to hear, although I think it would be safe to say if there's anything Aaron Rodgers really does hate the most, it is media. So to flip it back on the media, I'm not surprised.
Nope. But this will be very funny to see how Zach Wilson does after we were told that he told the Jets thanks but no thanks.
Well, and also, like, wouldn't you tell the Jets thanks but no thanks if your team was boo-boo and you weren't in really playoff contention anymore?
If there was no point, yeah, I can see that. It's the same
And at
reason
this
someone
point,
would skip a bowl game.
I'm assuming Zach Wilson sees the Jets as, like, they kind of just buried him.
Oh,
like,
yeah, the writing's on the wall, and
he
I think
doesn't
he's
look
smart
good is
enough to know
because of the
that.
Jets. They're not in a competent organization. And I think with Aaron Rodgers, he was trying to take a hold of that, the fact they're not competent and he can lead the way, and they would give him the keys to the castle. And in a way they did, but then no one could have seen that he was getting hurt. And now you're kind of left looking around going, I don't know what's going to happen or what's going to be of this. And Zach Wilson's going, I don't really want to be a part of this anymore. Can you blame him?
I cannot at all.
And that is life. And that is life. So we will see what happens. Of course, the NFL just revolving around the quarterback conversation, but we're getting down to the nitty-gritty now. It's getting to the end. Oh, I wanted to bring this up to you, Ellie. I saw a very interesting, we'll call it a blog. They were just doing some things, but they said, would the Falcons trade for Justin Fields? How do you feel about that in 20 seconds?
Please no.
Take the one thing that Chicago kind of has.
No, please.
You're
He's not
for
the
it.
guy. Don't.
So you're not a Justin Fields believer anymore?
No.
We will have to come back on a
Eating my
separate
words
segment
eating my words
tomorrow
on
for
that
that, because that just blew my mind. But for now, we do have to wrap up. We're running out of time here on your Sports Tonight. That will do it for your Wednesday edition. For Ellie, I'm Bailey. Make sure to join us tomorrow where we'll have the latest storylines for Sports Tonight.
See ya.